Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started for this first training session 1 on the city's property viewer. My name is Laura Bryan. I'm the Land Use Director for Councilmember LaToya Cantrell in District B in New Orleans. And we get a lot of residents contact us because they're purchasing a property or renovating a property and they're not sure where to find specific property information that we have access to. I'm here to tell you that that information is accessible by you too. And the tutorial we're going to walk through today is going to show you how to use the property viewer to find the information. So we have 3 main topics we'll go over. First, we're going to walk through how to access the property viewer and find a property. Second, we'll review the features property viewer provides for us. And third, we'll walk through the property information boxes that pop up at the bottom of the screen that have information about the zoning and the lot size, etc. And at the end, we'll have a little time for some questions. So all you'll need is a computer with access to the internet, a mouse, and that's it. So first we're going to open up a new web browser and go to the city's property viewer. So the address for the property viewer is property.nola.gov. I'm just going to write that on the screen right here, property.nola.gov. It should be visible to you, and then you can just type that in any new web browser. You would just go to the top of the screen and type in property.nola.gov. Okay, so once it pops up, this is the property viewer. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a search button, and you can click this and then type in the name, the address of a property that you're interested in finding more information about. In this case, for our tutorial, let's just use Gallier Hall, which is a very important building to New Orleans and to the city. So the address for Gallier Hall is 545 St. Charles Avenue. So when you type in an address, just type it in as you normally would, but do not include any punctuation, because oftentimes when you include punctuation, the search feature won't be able to find the address. So let's just do St. Charles Avenue, and you'll see that it automatically populates with some choices. This first one is the correct one, so we're going to go ahead and click it. And then a pin is dropped onto the map at Gallier Hall, which is 545 St. Charles. Once the pin is dropped, the navigation ribbon should pop up at the bottom of the screen. This is an information navigation ribbon. And you'll see that it includes multiple boxes with different information. This first one is the property information. The second one is zoning. The third is overlays and interim zoning districts. The fourth is local historic districts. The fifth, National Register of Historic Places, and then neighborhood conservation districts. Now, you can scroll back and forth by using these arrows on the left and right-hand sides. And there's this arrow, too, which minimizes the ribbon or unminimizes it, activates it, I guess. At the bottom of the screen, you can see that there are other options for information windows that are not highlighted on this ribbon, and that's because these don't pertain to the property that we have dropped the pin on. So this box, conditional uses and exceptional uses or planned development, does not pertain to this particular property, and so it is grayed out at the bottom of the screen. The other one is the Vieux Commission restrictions. That obviously is gray at the bottom of the screen because this property is not within the Vieux jurisdiction. So let's just go ahead and close this. Now, you can move the map around just by clicking on it and moving it any which way you'd like to go. And then the other thing that's helpful is the zoom button. You can zoom out and zoom in using these plus and minus signs on the upper left-hand corner. And you can also zoom in if you have a scroll button on your mouse. You can just scroll one way or the other, and it'll either maximize or minimize what's on your screen. Okay, now we're officially going to move into the second part of this training. So we're going to go through these features and their tools on the upper right-hand side of the screen next to the search button. First, we can look at the measuring tool. So the measure feature allows you to measure the distances on the map in approximate measurements. Basically, you can just click this, and it'll automatically go to the length feature. There's 2 tabs here, length and area. Unfortunately, the area does not work, but the length does. So we're going to click the length, and right now we're zoomed out, so I'm going to zoom back into our property. And let's just say that we want to measure the front facade of Gallier Hall. This is just a very approximate measurement, but let's try it. So to start a length measurement session, you just double-click on a corner. In this case, we've double-clicked on this lower corner, and we're just going to drag the cursor over to the other side and double-click again to end the measurement session. And we can see in the box that the length has just populated. The measurement is 101 feet. And we've also created a blue line on the screen that shows us what exactly we've measured. Now, you don't have to measure along any proposed building structure or lot line. You can measure across different distances as well. You can measure through streets in the park, for example. Let's just go from here to here. We can measure that. And that measurement turned out to be 206.2 feet. And so the way that you end a session is just by double-clicking again on the map wherever you'd like to measure a new line or new distance. For some reason, that wasn't working. Okay, but here we are. And then if you're in the measuring tool and you're like, okay, I'm done with this measuring tool, you can just click the box and it'll disappear. And then you're no longer in the measuring session. You can go back to moving the map around as you would normally. The next feature on the right-hand side is the layers option. So if you click this, you'll notice that there's quite a few different layer options that the city allows you to visualize on your map. I find that the ones that are most helpful are the lot and zoning layers. Right now, the address points and the parcels layers are the only ones that are visible. And that's because these are the automatic default options that the property viewer defaults to every time you search for a new property or every time you open up the property viewer. If we want to add more layers, we simply click the checkbox on the left-hand side. So in this case, I just added the lot layer, and you can see that there's all these lots that populate. But when I unclick it, and we're looking at the parcel, we can see that all these lots all the lots made up just one parcel. If you click it again, you'll notice that all these lot lines populate. So the lots can be very helpful because you can distinguish between lots, and you can see that sometimes buildings are built across multiple lots that have not been subdivided. In most cases, lots should be subdivided if there's a building built across lot lines. So let's unclick this, and the next feature that I think is really helpful is the zoning layer. In this case, when we click the zoning layer, we can see that this square that Gallier Hall falls within is divided into two different zones, CBD1 and CBD5. This dark gray outline is the distinction between the two. And over here, we have a Lafayette Square, which is a park, and it's OFN. So the layer allows you to visualize where these different zones are falling. As you zoom out of the map, you can see the difference between more commercial versus residential zones and areas, and then obviously the green space is visible as well. So this is really helpful if you're looking, for a general overview of the map and of the layout of residential versus commercial or mixed-use areas within the city. But let's zoom back in and move along to our next feature, which is the base map. I should mention that there's multiple options for other layers as well. And some of the others I'll use are the historic zoning, which was more important when I was working in City Planning Commission, but also helpful. And then if you click on some of these other ones, like the local historic districts, it'll show you their lines and the jurisdictions of their lines, but it's much easier to actually just get that information by searching for a specific property if that's what you're interested in, or by looking at the maps that they host online at their website. So let's go on to the next feature, which is the base map. We can just remove this list of layers by clicking that feature button again. Actually, I'm going to remove the zoning layer so we don't get confused and then remove the list. Okay. Now on the base map feature, we have two options. We can do a street map or we have an imagery map. The imagery map is helpful because it's like a satellite. You can automatically see, where the sidewalks are in the park and what the building outlines look like. But Street View is easier to look at when you're just wanting to understand what the boundaries are for different parcels or structures. The next feature is the print feature. When you click the feature, the print box will pop up, and you can choose print. Just click the button that says print, and you're going to have to wait a minute for a PDF to generate. When it's generated, that print button will change to open PDF, and you simply just click that, and in a new window, the PDF will populate with the information you have on the map. And then from here, you can either print it or you can download it. It's going to look a little different in each browser, but this is what it will look like in Chrome if you have Google Chrome. And then the last feature in the property viewer is the help. And you simply click the help button, you type in a message, you click next. Let's type help us, next. And then you add your email address and you choose the property viewer, which is the web application. And then you send the message, and then the message will send. So that's helpful, but it doesn't always, you have to wait to get the responses, which in some cases might not be as helpful as picking up the phone and calling me, which you're welcome to do anytime you want, or to call City Planning Commission, who can help you walk through this stuff too. So the next thing we'll look at, we're now going to move into the third part of this session. We're going to look back at these information boxes at the very bottom of the screen, because this is really why you would use the property viewer. These tools are really helpful, and we're really appreciative that we have the option to measure things or look at different layers and visualize what's going on in the city. But this property information is really the most important reason to come here, because it consolidates, it pulls this information from a few different places and makes it easy to find for the owner, whoever else is looking at a property. So this first box that will populate is just called property information, and it pulls directly from the assessor's website. So you'll see it has like some pertinent information. I find when I'm looking at this that oftentimes the property description is really helpful. It'll tell you which lots are involved with this property and what their size is. In this case, it's kind of hard to make out, but this says 101. If I had a larger screen, I'd probably be able to see this, but it says that, within this square, which is 220, Lot A is 545 Gallier Hall, or 545 St. Charles, which is Gallier Hall, and then it's the lot dimensions are 101.9 by 213.9. And those dimensions are really helpful when, you're trying to understand what your restrictions are going to be for zoning, because once you look at the dimensions, you can find out what setbacks you're going to need and what rear yard area you're going to need to have, and things like that. If you want to look directly at the assessor's website, there's a link at the bottom of this box, which is helpful. So you can just click this link and open up a new browser, and this has all the information about the property itself. So that's helpful. And then we have the zoning box. Now, normally I mentioned this earlier. If there were an active conditional use on this property, an exceptional use, or a planned unit development, planned development plan, this would be available under this box, but it's not populating because none of those correspond with this property. So the next box is the zoning box. This has, a direct link to the zoning. It identifies what the zoning is. In this case, it's CBD 5, which is Urban Core Neighborhood Lower Intensity Mixed Use District. And it also identifies the master plan, the part of the master plan that this property falls within, which is DMU, or Mixed Use Downtown. And these hyperlinks link directly to the CZO. You can click this, and the CZO should just populate right here. Let's see. Yep. And if we go back, we can click this part, the master plan, and the link populates directly with the information from the master plan. You can use this to understand what the goals of the master plan will be for this property. So the next box is the overlays and interim zoning districts. So we can see I clicked this button, and it shows you, it's zoomed out and shows you the entire area of that overlay district. And this overlay district, this HUB1 overlay, covers the entire city. So that's why it zoomed out and showed you the entire city. The other overlay that this falls within is the maximum FAR height limit and the maximum height of 125 feet and 10 stories overlays. So this property falls within 3 different overlays, and the links underneath the titles of them direct you to the legislation, to the regulations within the overlay district. If you have any questions about this, I can walk through it with you. And anytime you fall within an overlay, it can be kind of confusing on what is most important and what regulations are actually what property regulations are being enforced by the overlay. If you have any questions, it's just best to contact City Planning Commission or Safety and Permits to get a definition or, an analysis of your lot. The next box that's available is the local historic districts, and this does fall within a local historic district. It's Lafayette Square. I'm going to unclick the overlay. Let's see, does this allow me to unclick it? I want to refresh the map. Let me just refresh it this way really quickly. Okay. So it falls within the Lafayette Square Historic District, and it's under the jurisdiction of the CBD HDLC. If you wanted to look up their guidelines, you'd go directly to the HDLC website. The next box is the National Register of Historic Places. Because it's populating, it means that this property falls within the Upper Central Business District. And the next box is the Neighborhood Conservation District. Because it's populating again, it means that this property falls within the Neighborhood Conservation District. So the Neighborhood Conservation District is the commission that oversees any demolition. So if you needed to apply for a demolition, you would have to apply through the Neighborhood Conservation District through Safety and Permits. It's just something for you to know that there's more regulations on properties that fall within Neighborhood Conservation Districts, but it's by no means as restrictive as the local historic districts that are commonly known, as the HDLC and the CBD HDLC. All right, so that about wraps up our tutorial for today. If you have any questions, please give me a call. It's 504-658-1021 is my direct line. And if you have any other kind of, questions that aren't involved with land use, you can also call us on our main line. It's 504-658-1020. But thanks so much for joining us today and for jumping on.